Thanks for joining us. I'm Katie Hacker. Today, designer Erin Prais-Hintz is here. Hi, Erin.
Hi, Katie.
What are we going to make today?
Well, we're going to make some really interesting focal points to really make your jewelry stand out and express your unique style.
So everybody has the same access to beads and findings, and you can really make it your own if you make a custom pendant.
That's right. I was thinking about all the beads that I was seeing in the stores, and I wanted to do something that would really set my own style and make it my own. And what better way than to make your own focals and pendants, coordinating with the beads that you bought?
Yeah, it's a perfect idea, and you're using a special ingredient.
I am. It's an epoxy clay. So an epoxy clay is a two-part clay that you mix together. It feels just like a polymer clay, but it works a little bit differently. The benefit of an epoxy clay is that you can take these two parts and you can mix them together in the same volume, so part A and part B in the same amount. And when you mix that together, it is active for about 2 hours so that you can work with it. It's a little bit tackier for the first 45 minutes or so you can embed things in it and you can put all kinds of really neat flair into it. And then once it hardens over 24 hours, there's no baking required and it's rock hard.
So it's actually the adhesive too.
It
so we
is.
call it a clay, but it really is an adhesive.
It is, and it certainly works that way.
Right.
So for this project, you're going to need to find some bezels. Bezels are found all over the place. You can buy them online. You can get them at craft stores. You can also see them for cabochon settings is another name for them. Those are a little bit shallower, but they work kind of the same. So you'll need some bezels. You'll also need some beads, and I have an assortment here, just some beads and some sliders. Sliders are the metal pieces that usually have holes on the back that you can use to embed into the clay. And then my special ingredient is these glitters and pigment powders, like mica powders. You find these in the scrapbooking section. They don't have to be that expensive. These glitters came from the dollar store, so they don't need to be that great, but they do need to be very fine, and they will adhere to the clay and make it look very metallic and sparkly.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we do to get started?
So let me show you. So the two parts of the clay, this one actually is kind of a bronzy color, and you'll notice that a lot of times they have very designer decor colors. They'll come in pink and black and white and brown and yellow and blue and purple, but you can pick the one that works for you. The nice part about it is when you pull the clay out and you get an equal amount. You'll see I just kind of rolled these two balls up. They're about the equal amount. I'll start mixing them together. And the nice part is because this clay is darkly colored, you'll see exactly that it is mixing up just enough. Once it's mixed completely, and it really doesn't take that long, you just kind of roll it, you will have it ready to be placed in your bezel. I should back up and say that there is a suggestion that you might want to wear gloves when you're working with this product. It doesn't bother my hands, but it can be a little sticky. And then you might also want to have handy some baby wipes or some like a hand sanitizer to wipe your hands off as soon as you're finished working with it. So that's just a suggestion. So once you've got the clay mixed up, and I already have this ball ready to go, I'm going to use this particular bezel, this round bezel, and this slider. And the slider again has these little feet sort of on the back where the holes would be, and that's going to embed right into the clay.
So it really grabs on and will stay in there.
It is. So I'm just going to, there's no special trick to getting it in there. It's automatically stuck to it. It's pretty tacky right now.
So you don't have to sand down the bezel or do anything to prepare the metal?
The only thing you need to do is make sure it's dry and make sure it's free from any oil. So if there's any manufacturing oils, you could wipe that off with a little alcohol pad or something like that. But really that's it. So as long as it's dry, it's ready to go.
Okay, now if you do get some extra outside of your bezel, what do you use to clean it off?
You know, I use a lot of different tools. I can use my fingers, but I might use a little toothpick. I might use the baby wipe just to wipe it off at the bottom or the edges if I certainly got that on there. So basically this is prepared and ready to go. So I'm going to just take my slider and put it right inside there, pushing that down nice and evenly. Sometimes I even turn it over and just push from the back so that I'm not getting one side more in.
You really settle it in.
I really settled it in. Now if I wanted to take it out, I could, but it would probably have some residue left on it. So really that's it. And now here's where the magic comes in. I'll take this little pot, Sometimes I can use my fingers if it's a big wide open space, but because there's a lot of little tiny areas, I'm going to use just a tiny soft paintbrush to brush that right on there.
Nice.
And you'll see how quickly you'll brush off the excess too. But I do this on a little, like a deli paper or parchment paper or something, paper plate, something to catch all that extra little glitter. My studio is usually glittered everywhere.
I think you leave a little sparkle everywhere you go.
I do, don't I? So that's really how fast and easy it is to make these pendants sort of come alive. Let me just tap that off a little bit.
Okay, and then do you seal this or anything when you're finished, or it's permanent?
It is permanent. It will dry within about 24 hours, and it'll be rock hard, and you don't need to do anything else to it. I could keep adding more layers of that clay, and that would certainly add more color to it. But that's basically the gist of that.
All right, super simple.
So I'm going to show you a couple different other variations over here. So this one right here, I'm using a rectangular bezel tray, and I have these really cool diamond beads. What I wanted to do was make more of a traditional mosaic look with tessera or tiles, and so I planned this out before I even put the clay in, just so I know how many beads are going to fit in there and exactly where they're going to be, just like I'm doing here. And it doesn't really matter if they're exact, but I will use a tweezers if I need to, or a toothpick, just to kind of move things around. Then, super secret tip here, I grab my camera and I take a quick picture so that I know what it's going to look like later. Because
so you can recreate your pattern.
I got to recreate my pattern.
You get it perfect.
Now I need to dump it out and put the clay in.
Okay.
And sometimes I walk away and then I forget.
And you need to know how many beads you would have. And
right.
Let's take a look at this one here too, so that we can see
right.
once it's finished. So then that epoxy is really making a grout between your mosaic tiles.
It is. And like I said, a lot of people just use it plain, and I think it just looks a little sad and not finished. And so using the glitter, like in that particular piece, or the powders, like in this other piece here, the second piece.
The silver one?
Yeah, that silver one has more of a gold powder, which really meshes with the gold bezel that I use. It almost looks like it's made completely out of that metal, so it gives a nice look to it.
Yeah, that looks perfect. So how do you know, can I move this over? How do you know how much clay to put in here?
That's a good question. So if I were mixing the clay up, I kind of eyeball from just the balls that I'm using, is this going to fill up enough?
Okay.
This one doesn't look like that's going to be enough, so I'd probably pinch off a little bit more and mix that up, because it depends on how I want it. Do I want it really flat and flush? Because remember, every bead you impress in there is going to raise the clay up, because you're displacing some of the clay.
Okay.
So if you want it really flat and flush, you can get that look, but if you want it a little bit mounded, I would overestimate. And then I always have a few extra bezels on hand in some projects that I might do, so that in case I had some extra, I can kind of use that up. Right, right. And even after you put on the powders and the glitter, you can actually impress like a rubber stamp to get more texture, or a ball stylus tool, and just make it look hammered if you wish.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's kind of a neat little technique as well.
Okay. Well, let's start laying some of the tiles in here.
Okay.
And that'll give us.
I thought maybe we could look at this one here, because this is a different variation here. So let me show you this one. So this one I kind of came up with yesterday. This was kind of just a fun extra one that I came up with.
I love this one because it looks just like druzy to me.
It does, and all this is using a bunch of these crystal beads. These are actually three or four different strands of crystals, but all in the same color family. And you can get this using, I'm gonna move this out of the way, using these two different colors.
Oh, okay.
So I used two. So I'm going to take this ball that I already mixed.
Okay.
Lucky me. It still is tacky. It's going to work for 45 minutes, so you have plenty of time. You don't want to mix up a whole pound of it, but you'll have plenty to work with. So I'm just going to press it in the bezel. This is actually a little too much, I think, because this one I'm actually pushing the clay in.
And it's a little shallower too.
It's a little shallower, and I'm pushing the beads in, so they're really going to kind of displace some of the clay. Pinch just a little bit more off. There's a pair of earrings on the far side that I did the similar kind of technique, but with pearls and the glitter instead of using the crystals and the powder. All right.
Yeah, so for that one, it has a lot of dimension, and this would be a good way to use up some leftover beads.
It is.
Or if you have any broken beads, you could use parts.
You could use parts. Just be very careful with the shards. So really, with this one, I'm not really paying any attention to any patterns. Oops. I'm just kind of smushing the beads in there and making a mound of them.
So you don't worry about the direction of the beads either? It
Not
doesn't really
really.
matter too much?
Although I might go back later and go, okay, I can see this hole. I don't like that. I'm just
so
going
you
to
just
turn it,
shift
shift it with a tweezer or a toothpick just so I can move that around. That's what I did with the pearls on the earring. And you'll notice I'm just kind of really shoving them in there so they're nice and tight. And if I wanted to, there's a little hole up here that I think would be filled by one of these smaller beads. I just put a little extra bit of clay.
You can just keep adding more
Just
dimension.
keep adding more. And then here is where the magic happens. So same thing that I did here, this brown clay is going to act as that grout. And I just took the two colors and kind of mix them in. And these two colors are represented in the beads. So
Yeah, it really reflects the color of the beads.
right. And this is a total way to make this your own. I mean, nobody is going to have this exact pendant, even though we're buying the same strand of beads everywhere. And you'll see that quite quickly you can make something that is really unique in your own and very, very special. So I'm just going to kind of tap the excess off. Like I said, my hands in my studio are a glitter fest all the time.
That's great.
And then I might just do this, I'll show you. Because I've also got it on top of the beads, so once this dries completely, then I could come, I'm doing it a little in advance, but I can come back and sort of lightly wipe off the excess of the powder that's on top of the beads, so you'll see that shimmer and shine quite
That looks
quickly.
great.
Yeah.
All right, and then you could also string these, I mean, you could use these same beads in the necklace itself.
Right.
So for a piece like this, where you've got
Right.
your variegated purples all planned out,
Right.
you can add your coordinating piece, but you could also use some of these flowers because they're sliders. You could
Right.
incorporate them into your strand as well.
You certainly could.
That would be a pretty look. And a lot of people use this for sculpting.
They do. They
So-
do. I guess they use it for sculpting for like making costumes or making set design pieces, and you can actually sculpt it by using just a little bit of water and feathering any pieces that you want. So you can really achieve a look that's very custom and very unique.
Yeah, it has a lot of versatility. Well, let's take a look at your samples here. We can take another look at your mosaic. I like the way that you combine the mixed metals. That's a hot look right now,
It
too.
is. Yeah, and that was super easy to string because I found the stringing material for the necklace and just really strung the pendant on and added a few coordinating beads in the metal tones, and that just brings it all together. That was probably the fastest project right there.
And these earrings, are those a leftovers project? Because those look great.
It was kind of like I had too much clay made up and I had these bezels and a few extra beads, and so I could make those charms up really quickly. So like I said, it would be a really good idea to have a few extra bezels ready to go because like I have this clay left, I'm gonna have to use that in a few minutes. So.
Right, this would be a fun project for a party if you're getting everybody together. We've talked about beading parties
Yes.
together and how fun it is to get creative, but this would be great because everybody could use what's left.
Right.
And everybody loves to add some glitter and sparkle too.
I actually did a project doing this for my daughter's birthday party.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the girls all came to the birthday party, and as part of like their party favor, but as part of the fun for the party, we made little rings like this with the
Fun.
glitter and any beads that,
I bet
that
they
they
loved
wanted
it.
to. Yeah, it's really fun.
That sounds
It
really
is.
like a lot of fun. The silver one here that you have, I like those hematite squares too for creating a mosaic. It kind of gives you a structure within your
does.
bezel, frame
And
within a frame.
Right, and I used a smaller rectangle or square bead on the center, and so that you could see the clay. And again, I had to use the paintbrush to really get inside there, so that you could get that bronzy effect inside there. I should maybe mention the red necklace over there, the pendant on that. I did that a little bit differently than what I just showed with the flower bezel here. I needed to make sure that the glitter was visible through the holes in the filigree. So I impressed the slider into the clay so I could see where the little feet were. Then I pulled it out and glittered it up with my finger just so I could get a nice smooth surface. And then I put it back down because I wanted the glitter to show through.
And would the glitter on the surface prevent the feet of the slider from sticking in? Is that why you made sure those places were blank?
Right, I left those little feet areas blank because once the glitter or the powder is adhered to it, you're really not going to get anything else sticking to it. So that's a good tip. You want to make sure that wherever the connection points are, that you keep that free of the powders and the glitter.
Okay. And what about the piece with the pearls in the front? It looks like you have created more of a pattern in the bezel there.
I did. So I used a slider. That's another slider on the inside. And I could have used that slider on the necklace as well, or in a bracelet or something coordinating. And I thought that the tiny little pearls, I made them more like a mosaic on the outside, and that one has more of the glitter look. So that brings that kind of romantic flavor to the piece.
Yeah, and you know, that's something that we didn't mention when we were looking at all these designs. You're really representing a lot of different design styles here.
I do.
You have romantic, you have more modern feel, you've got an artisan feel.
And there's this one here.
You've got your boho
This
theme
is a
going
very
here.
boho feel. So, you know, tassels and all of those kind of those colorations are really in right now. And this pendant in here, it took me a little bit longer to kind of figure it out because I was really doing that mosaic style. And like I did with the metal, the square beads, I planned it out first and then took a picture before I dumped it out.
That's a really great tip. And you know, you gave me another tip too, which is when you're going shopping, take your phone. Of course, your phone's always with you anyway, but you can stand right there and look at your inspiration while you're shopping and get your pieces that you need. I love the design challenge that you do where you take a color palette and I just take that, I just open that link and then look for those exact colors while I'm there.
Right.
But yeah, so tell us a little bit about putting that pendant together.
Okay, so this pendant, it was that mosaic style, and you'll notice that the beads are kind of off and to the side, so they don't even have to be sitting completely within the confines of the bezel.
Right, the clay allows you to kind of build it up underneath.
It does. And so I had an option of, do I want to use the glitter or do I want to use the more softer powders? And I really like the soft effect of the powders, especially with this kind of boho style. And these beads are sort of matte looking to begin with, so I really didn't want to have glitter.
Those little leaves, those are sweet.
Those little leaves. And so you can really, you know, coordinate the colors and the patterns and the style with the different embellishments that you add.
Well, and that's something you can see on the green and purple pieces here with the flower filigree too, is the difference between how the mica powder gives it a little bit of shimmer.
Yes.
And then on the purple one, you've got glitter to the max there.
That is glitter to the max. That's going to get you noticed for sure.
Right, and I like the earrings that you made too.
Yeah, that bezel is a special bezel, and so I wanted it to look sort of like channel set, like when you channel set diamonds, sort of.
Right.
And so I just threaded a head pin through the bottom after I put the clay in, then strung the beads on and sort of pressed them in and made the clay come up around the edges of the beads, so it really looks like they're held in a channel, and just made the loop. Those were the easiest ever.
Those do look easy, and these look a little bit different.
They do.
What about
Okay.
these?
So this one here is kind of like this other earring, very similar in style. But what I did is after I put the powder on, then I used a ball stylus tool to just make those little indents to make it look like hammered metal.
It really does.
It really does.
It has a lot of texture.
And then this pendant is similar to the boho style. It's actually from the same card, actually. It had a bunch of different colors. And I used a ball chain. So that gives those little balls around the outside edge. It's just a chain.
Easy. So you could embed cup chain or any other type of little embellishment.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be just beads. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much, Erin. These are some great inspirations, and we can really make it our own style, too. I love this.
Thanks.